everybody, and welcome to my tutorial for making a hoop skirt. This is my very first attempt, and this is our first mock-up. I based it on one of my other hoops I have to help me with the measurements, and I'm going to make one of these old-fashioned ones using the tape method. And obviously, depending on what height you are will depend on the measurements and how big you want your hoop. And this is all very time consuming. It's something that you might need a bit of help with. It takes a lot of planning to get all your measurements and distances for the rings right first. So it was very helpful that I had a hoop to follow, because I don't want a hoop for my bell dress that goes all the way down to the ground. And you'll see why later on. First thing we are going to do is make a waistband. You need to take the measurement of your waist. Mine is 24, so I'm going to use elastic for my waistband. So I've cut that to my waist, and then I've got a strip of cotton that is double the width of your piece of elastic plus a little bit extra from there to there. My elastic is 1 inch wide, and I've made my strip of cotton for my band. I've made it 10 inches longer than the elastic, like so. The next thing we have to do is create a tunnel out of our cotton. And we're folding it like so.
I'm not sure.
First of all, I'm going to take a strip of cotton, and what we are going to do to tackle this is we're going to turn the ends in about 1 centimetre each end, and then sew it down, and then do the same the other end, turn a piece over and then sew that down so the ends are already neat. Okay, I've now machined down both ends like so. Okay, we're now folding our band in half. Mum's just pinning it on just to show you what we're doing. And once we've pinned all the way along the end, and the whole thing's been folded in half, then going to sew right across the top. Okay, my band has now been sewn all the way across, right to the other end, so it's now completely sewn in half. And then we're going to turn the whole thing inside out. As you can see, our ends are still open. I can get my thumb in there, and then we're going to give it a good press with the iron. Okay, first of all you need a safety pin. Attach it to the end of your elastic, and then we're going to thread it through the tunnel we've just made. It's a bit fiddly. Just requires a little bit of patience. Just to save boring you to death to the end of the tube we just made, we're going to thread it right the way through to the very end. When your safety pin peeks out there, you've then got to hold the other end, because otherwise you might lose your other end, and then you have to re-thread the elastic all over again. Okay, I forgot to say, we've nearly reached the end of the strip. the end of the elastic has reached there, and we're going to sew that end down to stop the elastic from moving. Okay, after having anchored the other end in place, we've now pulled the rest of the elastic through, so it's now peeking out the other end. And then we're going to sew it down.
Okay, we've now threaded our elastic into our casing, and as you can see, we can stretch it out quite a way. What I'm going to do now is, I don't want the elastic to move out of shape inside the casing. So what I'm going to do is put it into the machine, and you start it off stretched like that, and then sew it using a long stitch, and that will hold the elastic in place. Okay, got into the machine, I've stitched on the widest stitch, and now I'm going to pull this as I sew. Pull it at the back. So now we have the elastic inside, and it stretches with your stitching.
Ooh, clever.
Okay, now we're going to put a piece of velcro on, and I'm going to cut just over an inch strip. That will be sewn, the hook side will be sewn onto the end, and then for the other end we'll have the plain tape, and I'm going to cut at least 2 inches of that. What that will mean is that when you actually put the waistband on, you can then alter it if you need to make it tighter or looser.
Okay, that's a good tip.
We're going to be using 1 inch wide herringbone webbing, and what you need to do is to get your measurement. Measure from your waist to where your last hoop is going to be. In our case, we're going to have the last hoop about shin length. So take that measurement and then double it to get the full length. And we're going to have 10 webbing strips all the way around the waistband. So whatever this measurement is doubled, you'll then have to times that by 10, and that will give you your final length of webbing that you will need. Okay, here's my cut length of webbing, and for the hoop that we're going to make, it will be 80 centimetres from the waist to the last hoop, so the final length of this strip will be 160 centimetres. And what I will be doing with my webbing is just running an overlocking stitch across the top to stop the webbing from fraying. If you haven't got an overlocker, just turn it over once and then turn it over again and then sew it to neaten it. But if you're going to do that, you must remember that you've got to add on those extra 2 to 3 centimetres onto your tape
At the bottom.
Okay, try on your waistband. You don't want it too tight or too loose, and make a mark where your waistband fits you. Then close your waistband up, and now we're going to take our webbing, which is doubled, and I've neatened the top, and we're going to work out how far apart we need the webbing to be on the waistband. Our waistband all the way round, closed, is 61 centimetres, and we have 10 strips of webbing, so you times your 61 centimetres by the amount of webbing pieces you're going to have. So ours works out at 6.1 centimetres. So at 6.1 centimetre intervals, you're going to sew your doubled webbing onto your waistband, and you just need to run a piece of sewing across the top and across the bottom. So use the middle of your webbing as your starting point, and ours will be 6.1 centimetres from the middle. So we'll get another piece of webbing which is doubled, and at 6.1 centimetres that will be the middle of our next strip. So pin that in place so it doesn't move, and you're going to do that all the way around. Depending on what your waistband width is, you will then divide that by the number of webbing strips, and that will tell you exactly how far each one will be apart.
Okay, we've now pinned all our tapes down, and we're now going to sew them on using the machine. And just sew each one across. You can go back a couple of times for extra strength if you want to.
Across the top and across the bottom.
And across the bottom as well, yeah. Okay. Okay, I've now sewn down all my tapes onto the band. And this is more or less what it looks like at the moment.
Okay, the next step is to work out where your steel hoops will go. So, taking a measurement from just at the waistband to the end is 76 centimetres. And we want to have 4 hoops. Okay. 76 centimetres, we want to have 4 hoops. So, you take 76 and you divide it by 4 hoops, which means that each hoop will be exactly 19 centimetres apart. So we've done a small channel at 19 centimetres for each hoop. Make sure that your steel is wide enough to go through these marks, and then you will be sewing across to create a channel for each of the hoops to go into, and you'll do that for every
single piece of tape, all 10 pieces of tape. The next thing you will need is your steel. I was quite fortunate because the first 3 rods that you see here, 2, 3, I got them off a previous hoop where I had to cut the bottom off the hoops because they were too long for me. So I saved the steel, but unfortunately I didn't have enough to do the last one, so I've had to buy some steel from another place. It's only slightly wider by 2mm. The next thing we have to do is thread all these through the channels I made in my strips earlier. I've threaded the first 3 already, and now I'm on my last one. All you do with the casing that you made is threading it through very carefully, like so, and then you just carry on right way to the end like I've done all the others. Okay, here we have my finished hoop. So not bad for our first attempt. And at back here I used requires 2 pairs of hands, but so I had some of the old connectors off the old steel here, so that really helps hold them down. You can use tape, but I think these plastic connectors are a brilliant idea that these hoops actually come with. It's just a case of bringing them round and joining them all the way to the bottom and having a good look back, and hopefully if you've got all your measurements right at the very beginning, you should end up with a good balanced hoop. So there we have it. Please don't forget to check out my website. I have all my written tutorials there as well, and also all my other videos under Tray Buff. Thank you.